Hi, welcome to yet another installment of my uh, class guides for multiplayer Mass Effect 3. Sometimes these things come planned and sometimes they come spontaneously. In this particular case, this guide came quite spontaneously because this is Reaper weekend and I hadn't played my Krogan Sentinel in ages. I mostly focused on the soldier. So I dusted it off and lo and behold, to my surprise, I discovered a really, really effective way to play it. I dub it the Reaper Slayer. Um, Now, this guide will be a little different in the sense that I'm not soloing, and I'm actually happy for that. We did a full extraction two-man gold run. That's Lord Zakir, Lord of Reaper speed runs, and myself. And yeah, he's playing the human soldier with the claymore, and I'm playing the Krogan Sentinel with the Grawl. And so we get to see a bit of teamwork. Both allegedly suboptimal classes for Reapers, I suppose, depending on how you look at it. But anyway, yes, I was playing around with this, and I really just discovered the joy of burning things, if you will. So let me just talk about the build before I go into the. So throughout the video, you probably I'm going to be talking over his voice. You'll probably hear that, but then later on that'll stop. So forgive me. But I think it's people who complain I only do Cerberus. Well, here's some Reaper stuff. We also did the Garrison Tally run, which was approximately the same time on a smaller map. We have a slightly better time on this map, a much bigger map. So I think yeah, we did pretty well overall for non-biotic team. So where to start? The build is pretty simple, as usual. Tech armor, of course. Tech armor, I don't really explode it, so the extra 5% damage resistance. That's the bottom part. Then I go for power damage, the 20% power damage boost, which I want because I want to enhance Incinerate. And then finally I go for the cooldown because I want to use Incinerate as often as I can. I skip lift grenades. They're not interesting to me. And then I go for Incinerate. I forgot which one comes before. Well, either way, I skip lift grenades. And then so Incinerate, you want to make Incinerate a pure armor killer or a damage dealer. So I go for the 30% extra damage, the 50% extra damage over 8 seconds. And unlike the Corium, because I don't have access to a regular cryo effect, I take the 50% extra damage to armor, and you see throughout the video how quickly armor just melts under my incineration blast. For the passive, I max out all the power, damage, and weight capacity, and finally shotguns, so I can make use of the Grawl, and I'll talk about shotguns in a second. And in the passive, my traditional max out fitness and health. And I'll talk about melee a little bit in a bit. But so that's the build. You can, of course, enhance all of this by making use of various consumables. We both were using Incendiary 3, I believe, so that's very helpful against Reapers, against armor and the damage over time. One great thing about Incineration Blast, whether even with a team of 4, but if you're just a two-man team or a solo, the damage over time is really vital. That means you can engage in what one call hit and run techniques, where you blast them and you run away because you know they're going to die in a couple of seconds anyway, so you don't have to worry about them. So you'll see me do that a few times. The weapon choice, well, for me, it comes down to really the Claymore or the Grawl. Unlike Cerberus, I'm not one of these people. I think Geth are overall the easiest now, but I don't think Cerberus or Reapers are easier than the other. They're just different. In the case of Cerberus, if you're using this build, which isn't quite as effective because you lack the armor there, but it's still very effective against Cerberus, I would certainly urge people to use the Grawl for the simple reason that you need to be able to crowd control the Phantoms. With regards to Reapers, you don't really need to crowd control quite as much. That is to say, you don't have anything directly lunging at you trying to instant kill you with a sword. So one distinct possibility, of course, is the Claymore. The Claymore does the most damage in the game. It's very powerful, but there are a couple of reasons I choose the Grawl. I've always preferred the Grawl over the Claymore, even though I like the Claymore a lot. I don't want to have to constantly be relying on the reload trick, which is fine. I use it all the time, but I like having the 3 shots. I like the stagger effect. It's good against marauders and trash mobs. I like the range. I like being able to fire across the map and still hit my targets more or less precisely. And I have 190% versus 130% cooldown, which is a 60% difference. With the tech armor slowdown, it's significant. So the Grawl is, in my opinion, a better choice. No doubt you could use the GPS. I'll say that if you wanted to. I'm not going to endorse the GPS. I never do, but if you want to, you could do that. Another good weapon, of course, would be the Talon as an alternative. In that case, instead of taking the 30% shotgun passive, you would just max out the extra weapon damage. And there you have it. But the Grawl, basically, I'd say the Claymore, the Talon, the Grawl, they're all great weapons, again, especially against Reapers. But they're also great weapons against all factions, but the Grawl does stagger. So, so what you'll see in this, it's a pretty simple build. I mean, you only have one power, and so it's basically a combination, mostly of using your weapon to kill things and killing things with incineration. That's basically what it comes down to. And as I've talked about before with regards to Krogans, I certainly have never said that melee is useless. In fact, you see me use it quite a number of times if I'm out of ammo or I'm in reloading, or even just for crowd control. It is useful, but I would never ever use melee as a primary killing mechanism, simply because it's not very safe on a two-man run. It's not very safe in general on gold. And whilst it's doable, I respect this. I did a pure rage build. When you do full melee, what happens is you tend to get caught up in the melee and just in meleeing everything rather than killing things, and it slows down your progress. So, but you do see me use it rather fairly consistently in certain situations. One thing you'll see, the synergy between the Claymore and the Grawl and Incineration Blast, is we just take down Banshees very, very quickly. Most of the time, we don't even need rockets. And so a couple of tight spots, we ended up having to use rockets. But for the most part, no, we were pretty lucky in that regard. Um, Couple of things. I think there are some myths about the Reapers. A lot of people seem to think, and it does happen to me a few times, that the worst thing is getting trapped in a corner. I think that's the second worst thing, and it is a very real possibility. You saw it in my Tally Garrus run with Lord Zakir, and how I got trapped in the corner that I instant killed. That's bad. But especially in a wide open map, the greatest danger comes from three enemies. There are three enemies that shoot projectiles or fire guns: Ravagers, Marauders, and cannibals. I think Ravagers and Marauders are probably the worst. Marauders may be even the worst because they fire so quickly. It seems that their Feisten is about 1,000 times quicker than your own. But those are the ones you have to really watch out for. Brutes, you see Brutes just melt between the Grawl, Incendiary Ammo, and Incinerate. They just melt. They're not really a huge danger. So that's basically what happened there. The great thing about the Krogan Sentinel, I think, is you have access to a really useful power. Incinerate, if you go past protection, does a lot of damage, but it also panics or organics. That includes Reaper enemies, as long as they don't have armor. And if they do have armor, they melt almost instantly anyway. And you just have a lot of meat. You have a lot of shields and a pretty good health. And I took a cyclonic modulator here, so that was pretty helpful. So you really have the best of all worlds. I really think this is one of the best ways of approaching the Reapers if you're not going to use a biotic. Um, Biotics against Reapers are a dime a dozen, and I think at least the videos I do with Lord Zakir will be primarily either tech classes or just non-tech or non-biotic classes. But yeah, so you really have the best of all worlds. You have a pretty short cooldown on your. I have to double check what it is on your Incineration Blast with the Brawl 10 and your passive. So and on a team, if you have a team of four, it'll go even faster. So it's a very, very good build. That's why I call it the Reaper Slayer. Reapers are just kind of putty in your hands. Um, you lack the biotic explosions, but Incineration Blast is so good against Reapers, and especially when you spec it for the extra armor damage, because there's so much armor in Reapers. It's very, very effective, and you just have a lot of survivability as a Sentinel. And yeah, I mean, of course, it's this is also a good class against Cerberus because they are organics. They'll panic if there's not quite as much armor, but certainly good against Atlases. And it's pretty decent against Geth as well, although they don't panic. But you do have primes and pyros that will melt once their shields are down. So I think I could recommend this for basically every enemy type, but it's certainly best against Reapers, and it's probably second best against Cerberus. But it's definitely a lot of fun. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll be posting this on the forums as usual, and in case people have questions, then feel free. But definitely was a very enjoyable, fun run, and I look forward to making more guides. Sometimes they'll be spontaneous, and sometimes they won't. But I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for watching.